If you've ever felt truly alone in the woods, I promise you, you weren't. Tonight, I'll share 3 real stories. 3 moments when ordinary hikers discovered something they were never meant to see. Footsteps that appear from nowhere. A stranger who watches in total silence. And a place deep in the forest where lost paths lead to something terrifying. Take a breath, get comfortable, because once you hear these stories, you'll never look at the woods the same way again.
If one day you find out that you're not alone in a place you believed no one had visited for years, that's the moment you cross a line you can never come back from. Just like I did. I had gone camping for the weekend by a small, quiet lake. This was a place from my childhood. My father used to bring me here. A thin, hidden trail, invisible on maps, far from the city, completely isolated. And for years, nobody had come here. At least, that's what I thought. The first day was uneventful. I set up my camp, lit a fire, sat by the lake listening to the silence, and started reading a book. It was the kind of silence where you could hear your own heartbeat. But on the second day, everything changed. While walking around the lake, I found barefoot footprints on a spot I had passed many times before. The prints were fresh, and they didn't belong to just one person. On my side of the lake, there was no place to swim, so no one would have taken off their shoes to go into the water. Even if they had, I would have seen a towel, a bag, something. But there was nothing. It was as if someone, with no belongings at all, had quietly walked along the shore. I thought about following the tracks, but as I advanced, the woods grew darker, and a heavy pressure settled on my chest. I took one more step, but the footprints seemed to lead deeper into the darkness, almost as if they were calling me in. Don't. That word echoed inside my head, so I turned back. As evening fell, an uneasiness took hold of me. I built the fire higher and scanned the woods and the lake. Nothing. No movement. No sound, until the first footstep broke the silence. The sound of snapping twigs came from the woods, at first soft, then clearer. Then I heard them distinctly. 2 people walking with heavy steps, coming straight toward my tent. I held my breath. The shadows between the trees shifted, and 2 figures appeared just at the edge of the firelight. A woman and a man. They didn't move. They didn't speak. Their faces were completely hidden in the dark. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" I asked. Suddenly, the woman jerked around and ran into the darkness of the forest. The man didn't move. I stared at him, and that's when I noticed. He wasn't wearing shoes. The dirt on his feet matched the footprints exactly. "Hey, is something wrong?" I asked. This time, he slowly turned around and walked into the darkness without saying a single word. In that moment, something inside me unraveled. Without thinking, I started packing my things. Every instinct I had screamed, "Leave, now!" Within minutes, I was back at the start of the trail, hurrying away. For the first 10 minutes, I kept listening behind me. When I heard nothing, I relaxed just a little, until about an hour later, the entire forest suddenly fell dead silent. No insects, no wind. It was like the woods were holding their breath. And then, I heard running footsteps. Not too close, but not far either. Maybe 30 meters. And the running was strange, light, rhythmic, like bare feet. I sped up.
The silence returned. Then the footsteps came again, this time from my left, then from my right. It felt like someone was running through the woods, always moving, but never appearing. I felt eyes on me from the dark. My breath quickened, my legs trembled. And then I realized they were surrounding me. They weren't running toward me. They weren't attacking. They were just following. Sometimes they stopped right beside me, but I could never see their faces. They were so silent that their presence felt like a suffocating weight rather than a sound. Eventually, I reached my truck. My hands were shaking so badly that I dropped the key twice while pulling it from the glove compartment. As soon as I climbed in, I heard a branch snap in the woods, like someone had stepped onto the trail, no longer trying to hide. I started the engine and sped away. Years have passed, and I still don't know who they were. Were they human? Something else? Why did they follow me? Why did they never show their faces? On nights so quiet that I can barely hear my own breathing, I still hear those faint, barefoot footsteps. And the worst part is, there's something from that night I can't forget. One of the figures, at one point, stood only a few meters in front of me, but it had no face. Have you ever turned around while walking in the woods? Don't, because when you do, you realize far too late that something has already been watching you. It was late October. The cold hadn't fully arrived yet, but with the yellowing leaves, the forest had that familiar autumn silence. I had the weekend free. I usually went hiking with a group of friends, but their schedules didn't line up, so I decided to go alone. There was a loop trail I'd walked once before, about a day and a half long, and especially in autumn, it was breathtaking. I parked my car, filled my water, checked my pack, and stepped onto the trail. The first few miles were calm and easy, bird song, rustling leaves. Everything felt normal. Until I saw him. A man was walking ahead of me. At first, I couldn't tell if he was approaching me or moving away. His silhouette was strange. He had no backpack. At that point in the hike, 6 or 7 hours in, it was impossible for someone to be there without a pack, without water, without anything. As I got closer, I could make out his face. He looked like an ordinary man, but something was off. His eyes were sunken like he hadn't slept in days. He waved. I waved back out of politeness, but every alarm in my body was ringing. He walked past me, or so I thought. I had taken 2 steps when the footsteps behind me stopped. I turned around. He was standing exactly 20 meters behind me, completely still, staring at me. Then he asked a question I wasn't expecting. "Where's your group?" His voice was strange, not curious, calculating, as if he was checking whether I was alone. "They're a little behind me," I said. I lied, without even a second of hesitation. I couldn't let him know I was by myself. He smiled slightly. That smile was empty, like it didn't belong on his face. "Good," he said. Just that. Then he turned his head and kept walking. But something heavy settled in my stomach. Every step he took felt like the beginning of something bad. I walked for hours, didn't see him again, but he never left my mind. No pack, no water. What kind of person wanders deep in the woods like that? As the sun neared the horizon, I set up camp about half a mile off the main trail. The forest was quieter than usual. I lit a fire, rested a little, but the uneasy feeling never left. When night fell, I crawled into my tent. Not even the wind was blowing. Hours passed. I couldn't sleep. And suddenly, footsteps. Clear. Heavy. Not an animal. Human steps. They came from behind my tent. Each step was slow and deliberate, pressing down on the dry leaves. He stopped, maybe 15 or 20 steps away. I couldn't breathe. It felt like an invisible hand pressed against my chest. I waited and waited. Minutes, then hours passed. No more footsteps. But I never heard him walk away either. Whatever that thing, that man, that presence was, it stayed there the entire night. I didn't hear it move, no insects, no wind. It was like even the forest was too scared to make a sound. When dawn finally came, every muscle in my body ached from staying tense. I unzipped the tent just a little and looked outside. Nothing. I packed up quickly, practically ran toward the trail. When I reached the trees, I saw the dirt at the base of a trunk. My heart jumped. Footprints. Belonging to one person, definitely a man. The footprints were facing my tent, but there were no prints leading away. It was like sometime before sunrise, he just vanished without taking a single step. My hand started shaking. I grabbed my pack and ran. The thought of a man standing silently behind my tent all night echoed in my skull like a scream. Once I reached the trail, I stopped and listened. Even the silence was unsettling. I walked non-stop for 6 hours. Didn't see anyone, not a sound, not a trace, not the man. By the time I reached my car, it was nearly dark. The moment I closed and locked the door, my whole body felt like it was collapsing. I leaned against the steering wheel, trembling. When I told my friends, they all said the same thing. "You really got lucky." I went to the police, but deep in the woods, without evidence, there wasn't much they could do. And to this day, I still wonder, why was that man watching me in the forest? Why did he stand behind my tent all night? Why didn't he move or take a single step for hours? And why didn't he follow me when I left? I only know one thing. While I was holding my breath inside that tent, he wasn't just standing there doing nothing. He was thinking, planning. And I was part of that plan. I hope no one ever has to find out what the end of his plan looks like.
I think it was about 5 years ago. I had planned a hike deep in the northern Appalachians. It wasn't a special trip, just wanted to try a new trail. I'd hiked these mountains countless times, so I was experienced with camping, and more than used to being alone in the woods. I had mapped out a 3-day route. The first day's path was clear, a well-used trail. But as I continued, the trail thinned, then faded, then turned into something completely different. That was the first moment I felt something was wrong. I checked my map, compass, and the notes I'd saved on my phone. None of them matched what I was seeing. I had definitely taken a wrong turn. But the map didn't show any alternative paths. The only choice was to stay where I was. As the daylight began to fade, I set up my tent and crawled inside. I didn't even set up a full camp, just slipped into my sleeping bag and tried to think about what I'd do in the morning. In the middle of the night, I woke up just to use the bathroom. My fingers were numb. The air had turned cold. I unzipped the tent and stepped outside. And that's when I saw it. Far away, between the trees, a flickering light was moving. It looked disturbingly like firelight.
campfire light. At 2 a.m., on a wrong trail, in a place that didn't even appear on maps, seeing a campfire was impossible. The chance of another hiker being this deep out here was nearly zero. I froze. Then a darker thought hit me. Maybe someone had followed me. There was no way I'd be able to sleep again. The idea of some strangers being out there in the darkness, it felt like a stone sinking in my stomach. I want them to know I'm awake, I thought. It wasn't a good idea, but panic makes you do strange things. So I lit a fire, a big enough one for them to see, and right then, the distant fire went out. Instantly. As if someone realized I'd seen them and yanked their hand away from the flame in surprise. A cold rush went through my veins. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't normal. I spent the rest of the night sitting by my fire, sleepless. Every twig snap made me turn. Every rustle made my fingers reach toward the grip of my gun. But nothing happened through the long darkness. At sunrise, while packing up quickly, I hesitated. If they were really campers, they might know the way out. At least let me check, I told myself. I strapped my gun to my chest and walked toward where the light had been. The place was empty, but someone had definitely made a fire there. The ground was scorched and full of ash, and there were footprints, more than one pair, as if several people had walked back and forth repeatedly. Then I saw something. A small structure behind the trees. Not a cabin, not a shack, but an old, dark building that looked like it had been there for a very long time. Its door was open. My rational mind said, "Don't go in," but curiosity was stronger. I leaned in slowly. Inside, the shelves were full. Tents, trekking poles, expensive hiking packs, sleeping pads, water filters, lanterns, hundreds of dollars worth of gear. And all of it appeared to belong to different people. Some items were brand new, some were very old, which meant this was a collection accumulated over many years. In that dead silence, only one thought crossed my mind. Where did all the owners of this gear go? Then I heard a sound, a faint crack. It came from the back of the building. My heart slammed against my ribs like it wanted to break out. I stepped back, didn't run. Running felt like it would trigger something. But I walked away fast. Didn't look back, not once. Half an hour later, I reached a large rock I remembered passing earlier. And from there, I found the correct trail. In one word, I survived. When I got back to town, I told the police everything. But for a place like that, and with no clear crime, there wasn't much they could do. They probably never even searched that building. But I know. Someone was out there. Someone who lured hikers away from the main trail, watched them without being seen, collected their gear, maybe did far worse. One person? Or several? That day, I didn't just take the wrong trail. I wandered into the wrong people's territory. And I came far, far too close to learning the truth.